Welcome to session, what is this, B18? The Worship Symposium. This title is Planning Worship with Hymnary.org. And I'm Harry Plantinga. I'm a professor of computer science here at Calvin College. And I'll be speaking with Greg Shear over here, who is with the Calvin Institute of Christian Worship, and also a minister of worship at Church of the Servant in town. And so the first conundrum is, why is this man pulling out his hair? Let me first ask, should we turn the lights down in front a little?
Yeah.
We need to use those switches.
So you better view of Greg in agony.
Yeah, that's right.
Leave the back lights on and turn the front ones off. How's that?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. This distressed-looking young man is trying to plan a worship service. And you can see he's got all his hymnals out on his desk. He's trying to find a particular hymn in a particular key, maybe some other particulars he's looking for. So he's looking through the indexes of all his hymnals. And here's Happy Greg, who has discovered Hymnary.org. Actually not discovered, but co-founded. But in this case, Greg is happy because he can go to this website, type in a few search parameters, and find exactly what he's looking for. You'll notice that his desk is nice and clean, shiny. Unfortunately, so is his head. He didn't build it soon enough.
That's good.
Okay, Hymnary.org is a website sponsored by the CCIW and the Christian Classics Ethereal Library. Greg and I co-founded it, and its purpose is to support worship leaders in planning worship services, so finding hymns that you're looking for with particular characteristics, that sort of thing. Music publishers get their resources available, like choral anthems or organ preludes or instrumental scores that worship leaders might be interested in. Researchers looking for information about when hymns were published, how they appeared in different hymnals, and the general hymn-loving public. So it supports flexible search. So one of the key things you'll do at Hymnary.org is search for things, search for hymns that you might want to use. You might want to search by a scripture passage that will be sermon text, or you might want to search by season, maybe an Advent hymn or something. Key signature topic, lots of flexible searching. And the idea is, instead of having to search all the hymnals on your shelf, you can search online, figure out what it is you're looking for, and then go find that on your shelf. Or maybe the resources will be available online. Or you've got a tune that you remember, but you don't remember its name, don't know where to find it. We can help you with that. We can also help you with media files, like scores, MIDI files, recordings, and so on. This is what Hymnary.org looks like. I'm just going to kind of go through fairly quickly some screenshots here, just to give you some of the concepts. And then Greg is going to take over the process of planning a worship service using Hymnary.org, and he'll be doing that online for more of a hands-on. So the first part, that's what the front page looks like. Before I get to that, just a word. So Greg and I are here. Several people have worked on this at Calvin College. Some of these are students, like two who are sitting in the back row, Nat Burns and Brad Greco, who have also worked on this. This is a web developer in his cockpit. He's got his 4 monitors there. This is Alyssa Luthman typing in scores, and Diane Shapiro correcting information, some programming going on. So just to give you an idea of what goes on. So we have hymn texts and tunes with media. We have scores, search capabilities, and you can find information about hymns, maybe find hymn stories, information about the authors, the tunes, and that sort of thing. This past summer we added the Dictionary of North American Hymnology. This is a database that's intended to be a comprehensive database of all the hymnals published in North America ever through 1978. So this is of interest, especially to scholars. You can find everywhere a hymn was published, the number of times a hymn was published. You can find information about denominations and the kind of hymns they use. So this has added a new aspect to hymnary.org that makes it useful for new kinds of research. Okay, and support for publishers, a place to publish your material, make them available for worship leaders. Okay, so kind of a quick, brief overview of what it looks like and how it works. There are 4 tabs: texts, tunes, people, and hymnals. And if you're looking for one of those things, you click the appropriate tab. So if I'm looking for hymn texts, I click the texts tab, and you can see, in this case, I typed in Epiphany as a topic, and there were 276 results. There's a little checkbox here which tells whether you want to look in older hymnals or whether you just want to look in current hymnals. Each of these refers to a particular hymn, and the number behind is the number of hymnals it was published in. So for example, Angels from the Realms of Glory was published in 536 hymnals that we have listed at our site. What I've done here is click the Add Remove column, so you can display additional information to help you in your search. I clicked Author, so now we're showing the hymn's first line plus the author's name. And you can display lots of other things as well, of course. Or you can reorganize. In this case, I've clicked View by Scripture. And so now these texts are organized by scripture passage. And I selected Luke 2, so now I can see don't see the number, but however many hymns we have that relate to Luke 2. So if you're trying to plan a worship service and you know the sermon text, let's say, this can be helpful. If I click on a particular hymn, like this, one of these, I come to this. This is called the authority page. Okay, this is not a particular hymnal. This is just the hymn, While Shepherds Watch Their Flock by Night. So it relates to all of the places where that was published in different hymnals. We call those instances. So let's see, you can read the text, scripture passage references. There's maybe some information about the hymn text in some cases. And then there are other tabs that let you get more information. Tunes that have been used with this hymn, media files that are available, instances. So it's been published with these different tunes. In this case, we've got full text from different hymnals. We've got a scorched score, which means, well, you'll see that in a minute. You can see it online. You can play it, images, that kind of thing. And then the Instances tab shows you all the particular hymnals where it was published. So in this case, here's a big long list. Okay, and if I click on a particular hymnal in which it's published, like Psalter hymnal, then finally I come to what we're calling an instance, which means the hymn as is published in a particular hymnal. So here it is, While Shepherds Watch the Flock by Night. And you can see the score. In this case, we don't have scores for nearly all of them, but sometimes we have scores. You can play it, you can even transpose it and print it out in a different key if you want to. I heard a whoa.
That's exciting.
Maybe I'll have to demonstrate that at some point. All right. Just to continue the whirlwind tour, same sorts of things for tunes. You want to search for a setting of the hymn in F major instead of G major or something like that. You can do so. We have information about people. These would be composers, authors, translators. This is Mary Keithon. She wanted to place for all of her hymn texts to be located. So she did some work on this site. She edited, added some collections of hymns, some hymnals, make sure everything was there. She added some information about herself. So it's a complete collection of her works. And of course, for hymnals, you know, you can have, you can search within the hymnal. You can have indexes like a scripture reference index or topical index for the hymnal. Okay. You want me to leave
Go ahead
this?
and demonstrate, yeah.
You want me to demonstrate it or leave it?
Demonstrate it, yeah.
Okay. Nat, up in the back row there, my students sit in the back row.
Yeah.
Worked hard on this past summer. Do we want to ask for a tune? Except I'm not sure I'll be able to transcribe it. Here, you come demonstrate this, Greg.
All right, everybody have a tune on their mind? Don't tell me what it is. I feel like I'm a magician. Don't tell me what it is. Just sing the first 3 notes. No, give me a tune that you don't know the name of it, but you want to know the name of it, but you can hum it to me. Come on, someone's got a tune in there. Yes. Oh, wait. Sing it again. All right, here we go. So we want to take a quarter note with a dot. And then we want an eighth note. This is a lot like step entering in finale or something like that. The same note right there. Bum, bum. Bum, bum, bum. Right? Like that? Yeah. And then we go. Oh, I'm in the wrong. Hold on one second. So we hit the back note.
Yeah, it's 1, 2,
Yeah.
3.
1, 2. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Right? 1, 2, 1, 2. All right, and then we perform a magic search and see what happens.
See if we have it.
Whew. Matt's back there going, I hope that's one of the ones that we have.
That's interesting.
I was just reading about the unveiling of the iPad, you know, this Apple thing, and how, you know, like the show that goes along with it. I feel kind of like that. All right.
You know, it's the last 2 notes. I think you have it should be half note, quarter.
Yeah.
Bum, bum, bum,
You might need
bum.
more notes to get it.
Here, let me do this. I'm going to edit. I didn't put in bar lines, did I? Let's see if that helps me. Nat, you can feel free to just talk as we go here. Save me, Nat, save me! All right, well, let's see. I'm going to put in bar lines. Dum, bum, 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 bum. You F sharp there? F sharp?
Yeah.
No, it's a fourth.
It was right. It was right. You were right.
Now half note.
Oh, that needs to be a half note.
Oh, stop it. And then quarter A.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, let's see what happens.
This could well be one that's not in there. Yeah, I don't, it doesn't look like we got that one.
Interesting. Some of these.
It's in the Psalter hymnal.
It's for the gift of 416.
Do you know what the tune name is?
No, I don't know the name.
It's interesting that it's finding holy manna because there are similarities there. Bum 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 bum. You know, so it's a complex algorithm that there are 2 issues. One is, can it find, you know, it can transpose the thing. Let me do one that I know that we have. What was the one that we were talking about the other day?
King's Fold?
King's Fold. Yeah. So, all right. Oh, I want to go to the front page, and I want to do this search, and I want to do eighth note and go. Bing, bing, bing. Oh, no. Don't stop that. Oh, I want to put a bar line in there. Isn't it annoying to watch someone do this?
Okay. Try that.
I hate when you're behind someone and they're on the computer like, just give me the mouse.
Just let me do it.
It's the modern form of backseat driving. All right, King's Fold, we got it. Woo, yeah, baby. All right, so and we see that we have various versions of this. Various instances have been added according to a particular hymnal or according to the abilities of the enterer. So that's one of the things about the hymnary. We have so many records that sometimes it's a tune that's played in by someone at a keyboard. Sometimes it's step entered. So you can see how, for instance, this one right here looks very neat, like you would see it in a hymnal. This one is devoid of bar lines. So a lot of that depends. But in any case, if we have, how many tunes do we have in the database?
28,000.
28,000?
2,800, sorry.
2,800. Okay. All right, so that gives you an idea of the search capabilities. It really does work. Sorry about the, I got to work on my Steve Jobs kind of thing. Do you want to keep going?
Go ahead.
Okay.
How would we use hymnary.org for planning a worship service, Greg?
How would I do that? Well, it's funny that you'd ask, Carrie, because that is the name of this session. Let me, yeah, I've got my stuff here. Okay. So let's go back to the hymnary here. Basically, I figure if something is going to be good, then you need to be able to use it yourself. Like, I don't want to foist something on someone that I wouldn't use myself. And one of the really fun things about the hymnary for me has been, this all took place, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we started talking about this. Harry also runs the Cecil Christian Classics Ethereal Library, and as part of that, he had some hymnals that are part of the book collection. And I had been talking to some people who do global music and had been saying, wouldn't it be great to get a place online where we could kind of collaborate and those kinds of things. And that came together in a conversation with Harry and I 2 years ago. And it's been really fun to see how this has developed over time, so that now I use this almost on a daily basis. I'm a worship planner in a local church, and so I don't think a week goes by that I don't use this for real. Now, there are times when I'll send Harry an email and say, I just searched for this and this came up, why did that happen? So that's one of the ways that we work out bugs. But I think it's a good testament to how well it's working in that 2 year span, that it's actually become a tool that is not just kind of like, a pet project, but really essential to my work. So I figured that the best way to tell you about how to use the hymnary is by actually telling you how I did use the hymnary in a particular instance. The instance being the first symposium service. I planned the morning service on Thursday. And like any service, you are given certain things and you're not given certain things. So what was I given? I was given, the sermon theme was Cain and Abel. And you can see this on your second page, with the scripture being Genesis 4, verses 1 through 6. Neil Plantinga gave me a short description of where he was going with that sermon, and he was calling it a mark of grace, and the idea that Cain's mark is a precursor of Jesus' wounds. Both of those are things that are simultaneously suffering and a sign of blessing. So I knew that much, but like most of you, when you plan a service, you really don't necessarily know all the intricate details. Depending on the preacher that you work with, they might say, this is the hymn we've got to use, or they might give you nothing at all. So And then I knew that the musicians that I had, people from Sojourn Community Church, a string quartet, and Keith and Kristen Getty, I knew that I wanted to really utilize people from Sojourn. They do everything from kind of roots rock to bluegrass, and I figured it was my chance to bring a banjo into the symposium. How could I say no to that? So I knew that when I was looking for songs, that I wanted to find things most likely early American hymns. I wanted to find hymns that I could do. I didn't want to go for more English cathedral type hymns. I wanted to go for probably things like Come Thou Fount, those kinds of things that can be turned into a bluegrass kind of thing. And I knew that I wanted to aim for a blend of styles. Typically at a symposium, we don't say, okay, this is the rock and roll service, this is the traditional service. There's a blend straight through, and then there's typically a blend of liturgical items, so that I knew that I would have opportunities for confessions, for creeds, for all those kinds of things. Now, when I plan worship, one of the reasons we're doing this as a tag team thing is some of you are probably worship leaders, and I figure it's a good pedagogical opportunity to kind of just let you in on my process of planning, and maybe it'll be helpful to you. There are a couple things that I do. I do what's called throwing the net wide. You know, if I teach students, interns or whatever, I say, I want you to help me find a post-sermon song, you know, a hymn of reflection for this scripture. Or I want you to find an opening song for second week of Advent, something like that. And I say, come back with at least 5 songs that would fit the bill for this. And the reason I do that is because this is how I work myself. There are so many things that can happen in a service. For instance, in this particular service, I wanted to use Come Thou Fount as both an opening song and a song of confession, but it turns out that Paul Ryan had already taken it. He got his service in first. So I had to choose something else. And so because I have a list of songs that could be used, then I have more options. The other thing I do, just so that you know, I always put keys of songs. I'm very into key relations and things like that. And so I always, just in my own planning, I always put key dash title, and then parentheses, I put, you know, PSH for Psalter Hymnal 479, or wherever it came from. Then I thank myself later when I go back later in the week and say, oh, Paul took that hymn, now I've got to find something else. I go, and I know exactly where all those hymns came from, and I don't have to relook them up. But it's not that arduous because we have hymnary.org. So here's what I started doing. The other thing I will tell you about my worship planning, it's pretty easy to find, say, an opening hymn. You know, not that they're a dime a dozen. Sometimes you find just the right opening hymn, right? But if you say, okay, I've got this whiz-bang organist in this particular service, I want a big, rousing hymn, we could come up with 10, you know, very, very quickly. You know, things that would just sound perfect with a big, full organ or a procession or something like that. But when you've got a sermon about Cain and Abel, I'm guessing that we couldn't come up with 10 possibilities on the theme of Cain and Abel. So I did what any sensible person should do, and I went to hymnary.org and I said, please, please. So I typed in Cain. Look at that. When Cain killed Abel in a fight. So I just used the search everything box. Let me tell you, technically speaking, what's happening when I do that. When I do the search everything box, it searches everything. And so if there was, in fact, you'll see down here, author, Thomas Cain. I don't think it's a strong enough tie-in for a hymn of reflection. So it lets you know that if you don't know exactly what you're looking for, then this is the box for you. Okay? It's going to be your kind of widest net. Now we find when Cain killed Abel in a fight. Let's not go there quite yet. As Harry said, this has 3 instances after it. This means that it's been published 3 times. So it's not a particularly popular hymnal. Yes, and then we have published after 1978. 1978, by the way, it might seem kind of arbitrary, but it's actually the DINA, the Dictionary of North American Hymnology, took 1978 as its cutoff date. Basically, when that project started, there was a slew of hymnals that had just kind of been done or was about to start. I can't remember which one. They were concerned with getting all the historic hymnals. They kind of just said, let's take this cutoff point, fill in as much as we can of the back. So that's why we have this kind of semi-arbitrary date of 1978. So what we'll do here, and this is very, well, I'm a hymn geek, but if you're a hymn geek like me, what you'll find is that when you click that button off, you're not probably going to find a whole lot that's useful unless you're into the history of hymns. But what you will find is kind of themes that people addressed. It seems that people sang, Cain offered God fruit, by envious Cain we're taught, Adam's eldest son was Cain. It's really interesting that, you know, people used to sing more biblical stories than they do now. So we'll go back to modern hymnals. We see, because that's what I'm interested in, is something that I can actually get my hands on that we can actually sing. Every once in a while, I will look at those historic texts. There are lots of, we have the complete works of Isaac Watts and Charles Wesley on here. And so periodically, for instance, for my Lessons and Carols service this year, the Genesis 1 text, that is the first text in Lessons and Carols readings, there's a great Isaac Watts text, which I'm thinking of setting to music for next year's Lessons and Carols. So it can be really useful, you know, especially if you're into doing modernized hymns. But in this particular instance, I wasn't really willing to spend the time to change a gazillion these and thous and find a tune and all that kind of thing. So we find when Cain killed Abel in a fight. What do I want to tell you about this? Yes, I want to find out where can I find this Instances tab. We have 3 instances, and I can tell you a little bit about these. Time Now to Gather. This, it turns out, is a Mary Keithon text. Time Now to Gather is her collection of texts. It then went into the Faith We Sing, and then the Presbyterians bought the Methodist The Faith We Sing and called it Sing the Faith. It's the exact same hymnal, so save your money. Do not buy both of them. Just buy one of those. People were really irate because the company edition is $80, and some people they got it and opened it up and said, this looks surprisingly similar to a book I already have. So that's where it appears. We talked about the difference between authority and instance. Do you see how powerful this is now? It's not as powerful on this because it's a modern hymn with the standardized text. But we'll see an instance later where the name of the tune, the name of the text is actually different in 2 places. We sing the mighty power of God, and I sing the almighty power of God. It's the same. It's very clearly the same text, but you would never find it if you did what the cyber hymnal does. If you know the cyber hymnal, many of you have probably used that. It's great until you try to get a little bit deeper. It takes a standard version of the text and you find nothing else but that. And you also don't find where it came from. And hymns are incredibly complex. And when we tackled this problem, this is the way we decided we had to do it, is you have an authority, which is the actual hymn, that thing that Isaac Watts wrote, with all the these and thous. And then it goes into 500 different hymnals, 200 of which have a completely different title. And 400 of which have different tunes, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know, one of which has an added last verse by this person. You know, it becomes, well, this is the kind of thing that poor Harry and his crew have to work with. All right, so that's one way to find it. Let's go back to text for a minute. Once again, we're throwing the net wide. We say we know the scripture that this is from. So I'm going to say Gen 4. You'll see to your happy delight that you don't have to type in Thessalonians with the correct spelling. There are abbreviations that it maps to, and so you know, pick your best guess. And if it doesn't find what you want, so I did Genesis 1. I'm going to just for fun. Going to expand it a little bit. I could also go down here and say remove this refinement. Now I get everything in there. I'm going to go Genesis. Now this is all the things from Genesis as Terry showed you. I'm going to go to Scripture. So now this is giving me all the scriptures. I could also take a different approach. Now I've refined it to Genesis and sort by scriptures. So that's pretty good right there. Because another way I think about worship services is we're telling the story of Cain and Abel. What kind of context do we need? You know, in some ways it's kind of strange to walk in and hear a sermon about Cain and Abel. Could we put this into context, its Old Testament context, in a way that's useful? I also did a search for the word Cain at Bible Gateway and came up with a number of New Testament scriptures that also reflected on Cain. In some original drafts of the service, those were used as confessions, as prayers for illumination, and those kinds of things. So once again, throwing the net wide. And what you can often find, let's take a look at this. Let's go a little bit further. So these are all on Genesis 1 specifically, but you'll see that now we get into particular verses, and that some of these will overlap a little bit. So what I'll often do is, if I know that it's in Genesis 4, I'm not going to go there right now, but I'll go to the Genesis 4 in general and see if there's something that didn't get into the search engine. The hymnal that we took it from cataloged it in a way that I wouldn't have cataloged it, but it would still work pretty well. Maybe there's something before the text I'm looking for or after the text I'm looking for, or 1 through 6 is one verse off of what I wanted. So, just look different ways like that. All right, and then, all right, yeah, we could do that. I knew that we were talking about a mark of grace, and so I said, oh, what the heck? Here we go. Grace, what do you got for me? As expected, we've got 745 hymns. But that's okay. Type in God sometime and find what you get. Well, so here's some interesting ideas. So the God of Abraham praise, which we used at yesterday's service, evening service. This is a way of I use the hymnary a lot to just kind of jog my memory or just think of a hymn that I might not have thought of. Either I didn't know it or I'd forgotten about it. So I start, I type in grace. I start thinking Old Testament. What was the other thing? Oh, well, here's another thing you could do. Yes, you could do this. PSH is the Psalter hymnal. So what we're doing now is we're restricting it to songs about grace and the Psalter hymnal. So we have the Psalter hymnal in our pew, and so I want to find out what kinds of songs are our options here. And so then we go to a number of songs that deal with grace in here. Now, maybe we get something, maybe we don't. But it is definitely a whole lot better than taking your hymnal and going, no, nothing about Cain there. That's a real long day. All right, any questions so far? Yeah, making sense? Yeah. Yep.
Can you do more than one hymnal, or is it, if you're going to select hymnal, can it?
You can't do more than one hymnal at a time. Can you do it with commas? No. But the guys are already working on that.
This
Get on your
summer.
laptops, guys.
This summer, we want to set it up so that you identify which hymnals you own are on your shelf, and search my hymnals. You can find it in hymnals.
So that you could create a set of a search set like church or home or something to that effect, and then you can take off that restriction. But we're hoping to personalize these things. So essentially, people get a vested interest in this. If they can catalog their collection well, and then they find a typo, well, they're more likely to send us a note saying, "Hey, I found the wrong thing in this particular hymnal." That's how the information gets stronger. So we're looking to do that. Question back there, I think first, and we'll.
Is the database complete, or are you still adding more?
Database will never be complete. It is. You would not believe how many hymnals there are in the world. I mean, it is just absolutely incredible. How many are in the Dinah?
But just about 5,000.
Yeah, and we have.
Just about 5,000.
But how many we had before? I guess we had more
We had
like
like
50-ish.
80.
Yeah. So the actual answer is it'll never be done because there are always new hymnals and historic hymnals and global hymnals to keep adding. But a better answer is we have probably, I would say about 50 to 100 that are quite complete. This is the place you want to go if you want to search the complete text of Isaac Watts, for instance. Psalter hymnal is one of our kind of flagships. We have a lot of MIDI files, a lot of graphic files and those kinds of things. Not Sacred Harp, Southern Harmony. It has a complete index plus page images that you can print off. So there are some that are quite complete, others that are just names, some that are, the data is a little bit sketchy, and so what we're trying to do is create a way of identifying a hymn as being very complete and very reliable, or it's in there, use at your own risk kind of thing. So you will still find, I still find mistakes, frequently, but I find more usable information. It's not like one of these sites that you go to and you just find nothing because it's all wrong. So it's a matter of slowly bringing up to kind of a library grade of quality as many books as we can.
Is this basically just hymnals, there's no contemporary songs here?
We use the word hymnals in a larger way. Now, we do not have as many contemporary hymnals, and it's partly the way the publishing business works. Publishers of contemporary music, it tends to be more pop media oriented rather than, like you get a contemporary hymnal, they very rarely have a scripture index or a useful scripture index. And so whereas a hymnal publisher, more traditional hymnal publisher, they typically have topic, scripture, and meter and all those kinds of things. So, but our hope is to treat all congregational song equally, no matter what the source. And so we're trying to make inroads with those publishers. But Harry will make a plea later on for people to get involved. If you have a favorite contemporary hymnal that you want to add to this, because if you have a hymnal that, for instance, doesn't have a scripture index, you put it here, and then suddenly you can search it. So it's valuable to you, and then it becomes valuable to other people as well. So we're hoping that people will take on kind of pet projects. Mary Keithon did her own texts, but you could do your church's hymnal or whatever. Question?
That symbol in the first column.
Yep.
Does that tell you that you actually can look at the leftmost column?
Yep.
Yes.
That's an actual text.
The page.
It's-
Well,
Picture of
click
the
on it.
page?
Oh yeah, that's
Just
a
click on it.
picture's
Just so you
worth
can
a
read the
1,000 words.
words.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And we are trying to make this so every instance has the text exactly as it appears in the hymnal, so that you could actually search variations. So gender neutral, those kinds of things. These, thous.
In what percentage of cases do you actually have the picture of the page to look
Whenever
at?
it's see this.
Actually,
Is
the
it that
pictures
right
of the
there?
page aren't showing up as icons yet.
Oh.
What is that icon that you?
That is a score file. A
Score.
score. But which is a score that you could print off.
Yeah. What if you use phenolic? Does it scorch talk with Sibelius but not
It
with
it
phenolic?
does, but you can do all the transpositions and those kinds of things online.
We have and also we'll have the music XML files that you can import into.
Yep.
that one.
Yeah, so there are options.
Right there in that column.
Right.
Yep.
So now-
And then these are either audio or MIDI files. This is information like you'd find in John Julian or a hymnal handbook. Let me keep going and see if, all right, I already did a little bit of, go back to, so we've been in the text tab the whole time. Let me show you how texts and tunes coordinate. We already did a refine by topic. All right, I am going to look for, yes, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to look in the text tab for "We Sing the Mighty Power of God." Look at that, we found it. Now it says 201. This points out a kind of interesting thing that we're still working on. We sing the mighty power of God. When you see this in the instance tab right here, what you'll find is most of the time it's listed as I sing the mighty power of God, or I sing the almighty power of God. It's actually only in the Psalter hymnal that it appears as we sing the mighty power of God. So you have to keep in mind this instance and authority issue. Now if I want to, I look here, the reason I chose this, I particularly like this song to the tune of Kingsfold. So here we go. I just clicked on the word Kingsfold in that instance, and it takes me to the authority file of Kingsfold. It tells me a couple things. It's an 8686 meter. The incipit, bum 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 bum, right?
Yeah.
So our incipits historically have been listed that way, and now we're actually moving to more of, because MIDI files can be searchable as well. We're moving more to a MIDI base, and probably will generate these incipits that way. Tells you a
Can
key.
you search by incipit?
Yep.
Yes.
Can. How many incipits are there? But it's hundreds, thousands?
Thousands.
So now you can do a number of things like this. You can go backwards now. We're in Kingsfold, and I just asked for the text. Let's expand that. So now he's saying that typical texts that are done with Kingsfold are, "Oh, sing a song of Bethlehem," and "I heard the voice of Jesus saying," and so we're looking at it for a particular thing. Let's see. We added text. How about key? Let's add the key column. All right. So what we see. This is one way, by the way. If we don't have the music in here, often you can find it in a different key. I will often give my musicians, especially if it's an orchestra, and I know that I've got trumpets, for instance. I know that if I have a song in the key of G, that if I give them something in the key of A, that they can play it. So then I search here to see if there are other versions of it. You can see that most of these are in F major, or they might be listed as E minor or G major. Here we have one in F minor. So if I was looking for something in F minor, I wanted to do a medley of something in, song in the key of A flat or F minor, and this song, then I can get it in F minor. Yeah, we talked about that. All right. Okay, class, we're gonna do this ourselves. Let's see. Well, no, we won't. I think we've got a good idea of this. We don't need to do our little assignment. I'll send you home with homework.
Okay, so that was Greg, the happy Greg, planning the worship service.
That's what I always look for.
Or is it Goofy Greg? I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's right.
As Greg said, this is a community resource. I mean, we think this can be valuable. It is valuable, and we think it can be more valuable. It would be great if people who have interest in a hymnal, or maybe some resources, maybe you've got a spreadsheet of hymns that you use for various purposes, or maybe you've got some old hymnals. If people sort of were able to put all their work in one place, help out with one database, make it available to everyone in the world, that would really be cool, we think. So if you have resources you'd like to share, if you've got hymnals, hymn information of some sort, got old hymnals, if there are hymnals you have a particular interest in from your denomination, let's say, if you have your own hymns that you'd like to make available online, talk to us. We do have a training process for editors and an editorial process. The editorial procedures are set by an editorial policy committee. It's got 5 members, 3 of whom are from the Hymn Society. And so we have some training materials. And you will find in the back of your handout, the back page, a quick reference. This is most of what you'll need in practice if you're going to help out. By the way, the work can be done online. You can either go sit down and click the edit button on a hymn and correct some information when you see something go wrong, if you're an authorized editor. Or you can download the information for hymnal in a spreadsheet format and edit it in Microsoft Excel or some other spreadsheet. So let's see. The resources for editors, we have this handout. This one-page handout has most of what you need. There's online reference material. There's a whole editor's manual online. There are forums where you can post questions and talk to other people working on this project. If you want to become an editor, there's a little bit of process to go through just to make sure. There's a quiz and a training hymnal. The quiz has 21 questions. Answer those questions. You can probably get the answers off this sheet. And the training hymnal has 5 hymns. You have to make some corrections, make the appropriate corrections to the training hymnal. And then you're authorized as an editor, and you can help out in the project. So this is your quiz. Here's question 1, and we'll see how many people can answer it correctly. Question 1 of 22, what is an instance? A hymn in a particular publication, B, a text name, C, a tune name, D, a summary of common information. The answer is A, correct. So that's 1 of the 22, all right, you're well on your way. Hymnary.org/wiki has the editor's manual, the training materials, and that sort of thing. Go there for more information if you're interested. And we were planning on saving the last 15 minutes for questions. We've had some questions as we go, but are there additional questions? Yes.
When you were putting the notes in to find a certain hymn, will it also, if you can only think of a stanza in the middle of a song, will it do an interior search?
Yes. Anywhere in the melody. Right.
Cool. And then my other question is, can you do a strictly metrical search for tunes?
What do you
Yeah,
mean?
you mean you're looking for 8686 tunes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually pretty cool. I mean, the composer, I've used this a lot. When I write a tune, it's in a, I wrote this one tune, for instance, for this particular, it was a copyrighted text. I said, I don't know if this person's going to use it or not. So I said, what else does it fit to? It's a pretty odd meter, and I got 3 texts that I could fit with it. So, and that was with, it was like 11, 7, 11, 11, 10, 10, 4.
Yeah, the problem with
And they
8686 is that there are 966 8686 tunes in the database, but for most other tunes you can.
So, I see. You put it in a meter. Gotcha. Okay.
Or you can just type in a particular meter.
Yeah.
Or you can just browse by meter, view
yeah.
by meter.
Oh, he did. Yep.
Could you demonstrate the incipit search?
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if that would have worked for the search.
Oh,
that-
good.
yeah.
Yeah.
You have to, I take it, know where the tonic is.
Yes, you have to know where the
Yeah.
tonic is.
And does it do any translation of?
No.
It's all relative to the tonic. We were looking for
So I think it's
which
5,
one?
5, 6, 6, 5,
Yep.
1.
No. So you want 5, 5, 6?
Am I doing that right?
Yep. 5, 5, 6, 6, 5,
1, 3, 2.
What a bunch of geeks we are!
Yeah, see, I'm not sure we have that. 5, 5, 6, 6. Let's see, we want to remove the key. So 5, 5, 6, 6, 5. Is this the right one?
No.
The incipits are not complete, so there are some tunes in here
I finally
that.
figure out what hymn that
Are you
What is
limited
that?
to 5
is. 416 and then,
Five.
can we look it up?
digits?
Did
You
you
can
just
put
say
it in
the
15 digits.
number in the
but-
hymnal? That's an uber geek, man. That's all right. My hero.
The hymn number?
Yeah. Psalter hymnal 416. And what's the title? And there's a traditional text.
Yeah, there is.
Charles West.
Charles
I
West.
think.
Yeah, what is it? Well, let's find out. We're gonna.
What is
The
4,
Portuguese
6?
would have a Charles West, the version which that's music.
Okay.
That's original.
There we go. What's the tune name? Oh, Blameworm.
Okay, what's
The
choice?
incipit is not given, so we don't have that entered for this
Oh,
one.
click on Blameworm on the tune title. Let's see what texts go along with that, because this is gonna drive me crazy. All right, so what do we have? Love divine, all loves excelling. Is that the one that you're thinking of in Portuguese?
Yes, that's it.
All right.
Where did you click to go to that score? Is this?
He was on an
you know?
instance page, and it tells you the text and the tune, and then you click the tune, and you get to the authority file. Tune.
So you have to sort of keep texts, tunes, and instances separate. An instance page is a page of a hymnal, and that's where you'll find something like this score here. I can click on the first line to go to all of the information about this hymn for your gift of God the Spirit, or I could click on Blaine-Warren to go to all the information about this tune.
You can see on the, I think it's the second page of the handout, I don't know if this is helpful or not. It says difference between authority and instance. And I write down authority text, I sing the almighty power of God, authority tune, King's Fold, equals an instance. This is the difficulty. There's been some people that have kind of taken us to task. They really like the cyber hymnal model of, you type in a word and you get a hymn. And that's all well and fine, but what we're seeing right here is that he sings Blaine-Warren to a Charles Wesley text. Psalter Hymnal has it with a different text, right? And so if you don't account for that, then you're not really having a powerful hymn database, And so what this enables us to do is to say, I really like that tune. That's just the perfect tune for this place in the service. But what other text options do I have? And then suddenly you've got 5 different options for that text. The same thing with tune. There's this one that we were doing the other day. I can't remember what it was, but man, that's the worst tune ever. It's just absolutely horrible. It's a Psalter hymnal, and it's like this, psalm of vengeance or something. Like, hey, God will smite his foe. It's just absolutely horrible. And so then I was able to do a meter search and find a tune that was more in keeping with the spirit of the song, as I heard. People in Psalter hymnal probably would disagree with me on that. But yeah, so it gives us a great flexibility. The other thing I want to stress when we talk about incipits, for instance, is that there are certain things. The way that we've done this is the instance always takes the exact information from the page. That's our goal. Now sometimes there are typos, but generally we try to, even if they list it the wrong way, there are plenty of hymnals that, for instance, will take a contemporary song like Seek Ye First. I don't think that Karen Lafferty ever wrote a tune name for that, but a certain hymnal will say Seek Ye. It will be the tune name. All right, so now it's got this tune name. Well, someone else might call it Lafferty, right? We take it exactly as it appears in the hymnal, either no tune name or one of those two names, and then we connect it to authority. That's another powerful thing about the authority structure of this. We can only do what we're given. All right, then there comes this level of editorial control where a human being needs to go in and say that's actually the same tune. Lafferty and Seek Ye are the same tune. Let's join those two together. So then you see them under the same authority. The same thing goes with incipits. If we have a MIDI file, if it's played well, then we find it on search. If someone put the incipit in, then we can find it on search. But like any catalog in the library, it's going to only be partially complete. And that's one of the reasons we look to volunteers to say, go through your hymnal and just double check, are all these right? Or put incipits in this, put keys in on this, because this originally didn't have a key index.
There's one more thing that we wanted to demonstrate. What if you are a bass, let's say, and you have some music like this, you think it's way too high, and you need to transpose it, say, down a major fifth or something like that. Perfect. Get into a comfortable range.
Now he's not bitter about the.
Darcy, how much nicer is that? Okay, sorry.
Humor him, Phil.
What is the copy info to new record thing?
Next question? No. That's for if you. We had a capability of making your own collection or your own hymnal. I'm not sure that that's still used, is it?
It's not used, but there are possibilities for it later. So for instance, my church has a folder of music, a binder of music, and it comes from all different sources. One possibility would be to copy, let's say this song appears in that, we copy it into number 23 of our collection, and then all the information is there with it.
So if your church has a collection of 100 hymns you like to use, you could build that here, just copy them all. into
Either
your own
actual or
collection.
virtual. You could decide
Right.
that, okay, our praise team uses these 100 songs, and so I'm gonna start a collection, and we've thought about having the capability of, say, you write a descant for hymn 23, you can actually put it on a password protected, part. So, but we haven't really pushed too hard on that. Is that a question?
I had a question about, you mentioned the word meter, I was thinking of time signature. Can you change, is there a component there that you can change the time signature, like say, 4/4 time to 12/8? Or something like that?
No.
If you could get the finale file, you could mess with it yourself, but.
Yeah, I mean, you could do some, if you were sophisticated with, you could download that music XML and then import it into Finale and see if you could change it to swing or something like that. The other possibility is if it's something that's commonly done in, say like a spiritual, something that would be done either 4/4 or 12/8, you might find it in a hymnal that lists it as 12/8. So that would be another option.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
Is the guide for what goes into this kind of form tradition, or is it supposed to?
No, we actually, the Hymn Society has gotten involved in this, and it's been really helpful in kind of helping us through, what are the ways that this is done. So, for instance, in Chippets, there are a number of ways to do in Chippets, and so we're trying to, not reinvent the wheel. So, no, the reason that we have things like the Psalter hymnal as kind of a flagship hymnal there with the most information is simply because we're close enough to Faith Alive that we can say we have that information, and they've given it to us in a number of things. But what we're finding now, various publishers, Catholic, non-denominational, we've been talking to them about, can we just take your spreadsheet and import it in here? It's good for you, it's good for us. And more people, as the database gets bigger, as more people use it. I was just talking to a publisher who was saying, I go to Hymnary every week, to search for things. And this is a guy who has an online catalog from his publisher, but he wants to know what other publishers are publishing. So, yeah, we're very open, no reforms.
Yeah, there are with the Dictionary of North American Hymnology, there are hymnals that are Jewish, Muslim, Quaker, a whole variety of things. In fact, sometimes you'll find different versions of songs, like instead of "A Mighty Fortress Is Our God," you'll find "A Mighty Fortress Is Mankind" or something like that.
It's very fascinating to see the kinds of changes, yeah.
Is there a list on there of the hymnals, of the 5,000 hymnals that you
Yes,
put in?
click
Yeah.
on the hymnal tab and you'll see all the hymnals. You can page through them if you want.
Pre-1979, and you'll see the whole thing. Right?
Yeah, so you see actually 49, 41.
Unclick that tab, and then you have hymnals that you're going to be more used to seeing. United Methodist, Psalter hymnal, Baptist.
Yeah, if you're looking for something to use in worship, you probably want to unclick that tab. Although the number of times a hymn has been published can be useful just to get a sense of how popular they are.
And you'll see, I don't know if you've ever seen these lists of most popular hymns through the ages. It's really fascinating to see how that's changed. We would assume that something like Silent Night is going to be, one of the most popular hymns. But it's really funny that the kinds of things that have been published over and over and over again until the 20th century, and then they've kind of fallen into disuse. I'm trying, if you think of it and say, yeah, here we go. I guess some of those are.
The top most published Christmas hymns. So Joy to the World, published in almost 1,400 hymnals. So a lot of these will be very familiar, but some are quite unusual. There's a Song in the Air. I don't know that one.
There's a song in the air.
See, it is popular.
Never mind, I shouldn't have said that.
Well,
Yeah, that's right. It's like,
And Christmas is done that, no? Christmas is really important for him.
Any other questions?
Excuse me, how did you get to this?
This is actually simply a article in this little blog section. What's new? It was something that we put up before Christmas. But the way you find those was, we just went to text, then look at topic, Christmas. And what this is really doing is searching the topical index of hymnals. And any hymn that is listed in a hymnal under the topical index term Christmas shows up here.
And then you can show by frequency or something?
I don't know if we have a sort by this count, but I think I just sort of looked through this. You can see Angels from the Realm of Glory had 536 publications.
So that, the one Christmas one that showed instances from most.
That was just a little article that we wrote.
Okay.
Any other questions?
In this topic, you have parts of the service, like, confession and.
Whatever the hymnal would list.
Okay.
And it's very interesting to see how that changes over time. You know, some earlier hymnals, when, you know, death was a much more frequent part of life, they would have things like, you know, disease, or, you know, something like that. You know, it would be a topic.
Cholera, the cholera section of the hymnal.
Yeah, don't leave home without it. And as you can imagine, a very liturgical church is going to have all the, you know, the parts of the church year and things like that. So it's neat to see how those shift.
Yes.
Cost to be a user?
No cost to be a user.
Doesn't get any cheaper than free.
Except helping out. maybe.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Goodwill.
Thank you. I think our time is up, but thank you for your questions.